Houston's offense started to fight, but the defense finished it 8 straight for the H and a playoff lock for the Texans.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town, today's playoff victory Monday. Everything is for Texan fans all around. We got a fun show for you, so make sure you stay locked in because I'm going to end off today's show. This is the way Hugh Ball. Back in the playoffs, the Houston Texans with a playoff lock. What does that say about this franchise culture right now under DeMeco Ryans? And I'm going to lead to the second segment. It's about how Hugh finished. The defense, I thought, played well. They had some plays that I know that they're going to want back. But ultimately, overall, it felt like they played back to their standards, at least close to it. So we'll dive into the defense and then kicking off today's show, just looking at about how Hugh started, right? The offense, they did what they needed to do early in the game to create that big lead, and throughout the game, just small things to help Houston sustain it. It wasn't pretty. At times, it was ugly and confusing, but they got the dub and on the way to 8 straight and now a playoff lock. We'll see if Indy can pull it off for the Jags, against the Jags, for Houston to lock in an AFC South division champ. But the Houston Texans are back in. I'm your Texas Credential Media member and football analyst, John Hickman. Again, fun show for you today. Shout out to my everydayers from the Himalayas, making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day, and also for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the nation. And again, like I said, I'm going to kick it off with the offense. But before I do, DeMeco Ryans, he talked about those first 2 big plays of the game to put Houston up 14 points. Let's hear from Coach Ryans.
With the big plays to start the game, it was just really just great execution. Starting with the O-line, we had to shuffle some guys up front with the offensive line. It starts with having great protection. Our guys did a great job there. CJ had outstanding throws, right, to Higgins and to Noel, both rookies stepping up, making, extremely big plays for us to really give us that fast start, get us going with some excellent momentum. That was really 2 plays that helped us to be in the position we're in.
Absolutely right. I'm glad that DeMeco Ryans highlighted the 2 things that work hand in hand. Good offensive line play led to C.J. Stroud in those first 2 touchdown throws, which were beautiful, by the way, making some great throws for the Houston Texans. And that's what you want to see. And it was an up and down day for the Texans on both sides of the ball. But with the offense, Stroud got the party going perfectly in his first 4 passes, including 2 big touchdowns, putting Houston up 14-0. And I'm not going to nitpick on this show. I don't think this victory show should be about nitpicking. I do want to take some time to rewatch the game to get to a place where maybe we can talk about the nuances of the game. But I will say that I thought Houston's offense was called really well from a play calling standpoint. And I also want to say, after the initial quick touchdowns, we all saw C.J. Stroud struggle to adjust to the pressure the Chargers brought. No adjustments were made from a quarterback perspective, and maybe from a play calling perspective a little bit, but I put that more on the quarterback. And that pressure really disrupted the rhythm for Stroud in the offense. And again, not nitpicking. I don't think that's nitpicking. That's just pointing out the obvious. Some of those wild throws from C.J. Stroud hurt the progression of the offense, but a pretty impressive day from Stroud versus zone defense that the Chargers showed. Went 15 of 20 for 229 yards and 2 TDs. We saw the good, we saw the bad, and we saw the ugly from C.J. Stroud, but his heroics early in the game were enough for Houston to win the game, right? And that said, I thought the Texans offense had some players who really impressed and played a huge factor into Houston pulling away late in this game, but really just throughout the game. Going into this game, I think it's fair to say that we all wondered what this game would look like without both Trent Brown and Ersery. The expectation for Howard was he'd be great for the offensive line like he's been all year, right? We didn't necessarily have to worry about Titus Howard, whether he was going to line up at tackle or guard. We know he's going to be great. We're going to be no real drop off wherever he played. But for Blake Fisher and Jarrett Patterson to step in and the offensive line still play a role into not allowing a sack. And if I do want to give credit to CJ Stroud right now, it's just simply he did a good job of avoiding sacks and getting the ball out, not throwing turnovers. Avoiding the turnovers. He did have 2 interceptions, right? But avoiding those sacks that could make a bad situation worse. He did do that, but the offensive line altogether, I thought, played well, and Blake Fisher and Jarrett Patterson were a big reason. Only 3 pressures combined between the two and no penalties. That speaks to staying ready so you don't have to get ready. And it's been a lot of that this year where this offensive line has been shuffled around different combinations. They got comfortable for about 4 to 5 weeks. But even then, early in the year, we saw Blake Fisher, we saw Jarrett Patterson, we saw Drew Scruggs, we saw Cam Robinson, right? But they just stay ready so they don't have to get ready. That also speaks towards Coach Popovich coaching. This version of the offensive line shuffling in 2025 would have really hurt Houston in 2024. No doubt about it, all right? But this mostly speaks to the future of Blake Fisher in Houston. This was a great litmus test for both sides. And I think because of the shift of coaching, the effort and not throwing him to the side, understanding that I still got a young, talented player at tackle, whether it's right or left, that I think can help us out. Okay, Nick Caley, we need to provide some extra run support. We need to be better in pass blocking. How can we utilize this player? The inline tight end role, right? So this team, this coaching staff all together, and I've said it before, they've done a very good job of not throwing Blake Fisher to the side because he didn't work out immediately in ways that they wanted him to work out. And I think because of the shift of coaching and the effort of not throwing him to the side, having a role for him and putting him in spots, that has allowed for Fisher to continue to grow with real game action, and that could play in the long run a huge role for the Houston Texans' future up front. And I know the obvious choices could be rookies Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, right? Caught the first 2 touchdowns, the only 2 touchdowns of the game for Houston. But I'm not going to go that route when I talk about this next player, who is a rookie. I thought Woody Marks was great for Houston. He had some tough runs. Of his 71 yards, 59 of those yards were yards after contact. And it wasn't pretty. Run blocking could be better. What you can appreciate is Mark's 6 runs of 5 or more yards. Jahwar Jordan also played a big role in Houston's victory Saturday for Houston to rush for 100-plus yards. I thought that was a good day. And, 65 of those rushing yards came towards the Chargers defense, towards the edge of that Chargers defense, which is something that I talked about briefly on Saturday's show that I put out. If you guys didn't get an opportunity to listen or watch that podcast, go back and check it out and see how things may have correlated. I was completely wrong on Nick Chubb being a factor in this game. He was not a factor. 1 carry, and that carry didn't do much of nothing for Houston. The stars were out for Houston defensively, and without that defense, well, y'all know, without that Texans defense, we wouldn't be sitting here having the victory Monday. And what did I predict? Even though I thought that Houston was going to lose this game, a victory December. Houston hadn't lost a game in 2 months. I'm just happy to cover this team, and I'm happy that I'm able to cover this team while talking good football with you Texas fans. But let's talk about the defense. It's about how they finish. Defense, I'll see y'all soon. Before we dive into that conversation surrounding the defense and about how Hugh finished, and I just love to play on words there. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend, elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No draft, no waiting, Just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on prospects was quick and simple. I love the app. All my friends love the app. The app is super easy to navigate. Plus, it's made watching games more engaging, more exciting, especially when following individual player performances. Download the Prospect app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL, LOCKEDON NFL, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prospects, where it's good to be right. Getting back to talking Texans. And I really hope y'all like the play on words that I have for this show. It's about how Hugh start offense. And now I'm going to dive into it's about how Hugh finish defense. I thought the defense just played good football, man. Let's look at the defensive performance. 28 pressures, 27 defensive stops, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for losses, compared to, and this is a big one, because when I say this, I got to give my boy a shout out, right? It's early in the game. He played so he missed a couple of tackles, right? And he wasn't playing his best. But as the game went on, he progressed. I just gave you guys the numbers: 28 pressures, 27 defensive stops, 8 sacks, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, compared to only 7 missed tackles. And so, as I highlight the lack of missed tackles, I got to shout out Henry To'oTo'o, right? He led the team in tackles. They had 12 tackles. He only missed 2 tackles. He's a little bit better in coverage this week, but just his progression as a downhill run stopper continues to be very good for Houston. That's his best attribute in his game. So I just want to shout him out. It wasn't a perfect game, but it for damn sure was an improvement from last week's game. And I don't think he was in too many compromising spots this week like he was against the Raiders, and also against the Raiders, who was not out there. They didn't have Azeez Al-Shaair out there. So I think that plays a factor. But this is the standard Houston has been waiting to get back to for 2 games, and they got back to it, right? Kamari Lassiter showed the dog that he is, returned to the game after he was injured. Azeez Al-Shaair only allowed 2 yards. And shout out to Azeez getting his first Pro Bowl nod this year. The numbers compared to other linebackers in the league may not always be there. Like, we got guys in the league right now that's getting 150 tackles. But when you see those players on those teams, just go look and see how bad that defense is. So to watch Azeez, to watch Azeez do what he does on a very good defense, to have a total of 102, no sacks this year, 9 pass deflections, I think that's amazing. 2 interceptions on the year, a forced fumble recovery. He's been playing good football, but he was great again yesterday. Only 2 yards allowed, and then he had the red zone interception that was crucial, because if the Chargers scored any points there, different ball game. Whether it's 3 or 7, different ball game. So that was a great play from Azeez, and Derek Stingley continues to be who Derek Stingley is. 0 yards allowed on the day. Will Anderson got after the quarterback. Danielle Hunter got after the quarterback. Barnett got after the quarterback a couple times. The front 4 was back to playing with that swag and intensity and aggressiveness that they've been playing with all year. And if I were to nitpick, there were some plays that I'm sure Houston would want to have back. 6 plays of 15 or more yards in the passing game. Justin Herbert should have earned a lot of y'all respect today, guys. I mean, he's a tough SOB. He played some good football against the Texans defense, and he did everything in his power to get them to a win. Did a good job of those throws downfield. And I know when Houston gets back to the film room and they look at ways to improve, that's probably going to be an area where DeMeco Ryans and Matt Burke and the defensive coaching staff say, guys, going into the playoffs, we got to tighten up. And then I think that's fair to say. That said, the biggest challenge for Houston coming into this game was stopping the run. the week prior, 145 allowed on the ground to the Raiders and Ashton Genty. The Chargers' rushing offense has been a huge proponent in them winning games this year. 415 yards in their last 3 games, all victory, all year. What have I said about this Houston Texans defense? What have I said about this defense? They do a very good job, probably the best in the NFL, with their ability to take away what teams do well. The Chargers on the ground versus Houston, 74 yards, failed to reach 100, 3.4 yards per carry, failed to reach 4.4 yards per carry. Not a rusher over 40 yards for the Chargers. Just an overall outstanding game from the Texans defense to stop the run. And guys, and shout out to D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke. You guys know how I feel about this next person I'm about to say. But one thing about me on this show, I have to keep it real. And it's been a while since I've said this. It's been a minute, guys. So I'm going to take my glasses off on this one. But shout out to Nick Caserio. Why am I shouting out Nick Caserio? Why am I shouting out Nick Caserio? Well, team recognized Miles Bryant was a weakness defensively in coverage. He was a liability. They recognized that they needed more run support help. They assessed the issue. And what did they do? They went out and signed Kevon Wallace and Lakey Fotu. Wallace was major for Houston Saturday. 4 defensive stops, 3 yards allowed in coverage. He played in the played in the slot, played back deep. Just an overall great find for Houston. He fits in. He played good ball in his debut. I got to give some love to Nick Caserio there. And them calling him, and he was called up for the practice squad and also finding Lakey. That's just 2 good finds for Houston. So when I look at how Houston was able to win this game, the pressure that the Chargers were able to cause and how they were able to disrupt Houston's offense in spurts and majority throughout the game, that's what the Houston Texans defense did to the Chargers. That's what they did. And another thing we have to point out from Houston's defensive effort, we have to acknowledge whether it was early in the game where the Chargers offense was trying to establish themselves, or just throughout the game when it felt like the Houston Texans offense was losing its ability to score points and move the ball altogether. The Texans defense had 5 3-and-outs. They forced 3-and-outs 5 times. The Texans defense forced the Chargers to 6 or fewer play drives 10 times. 3 points, an interception, 142 yards. Just special. And I talk about the interception was on a drive where on that drive, it resulted in the interception, but it was a 5-play drive for 73 yards. And the very next play, it was an interception. So you talk about even when they allowed the yards to be had, they make the play to make sure the points did not come from their drive. It just was a great day, man. It was a great day, guys. And I think when we look at this team and how they've been put together, how they've been built, I have to give credit where credit is due. Just a good overall job. And Nick Caserio, from a front office standpoint, from a general manager standpoint, understanding that, you know what? We got some weaknesses due to injuries, not due to the lack of coaching, not due to the lack of scheme. Just guys that have been there all year, not there no more because they're out for the rest of the year. We got to find ways to get better players in here. If not, that's an area where we can be exploited. So, Taylor Bullock played good football, great football. If you ask me, he continues to get better. I think in his first year as a rookie, his game was just kind of centered around getting interceptions. This year is that, but he's also better in run support. He's also better in identifying the route tree and what's being ran, and just how can his coverage and leverage just be better to not allow guys to run wide open, right? And no CJ Gardner-Johnson here no more. And so we look at the improvement from Bullock since then, and he's been very good for Houston. Very good. And I think this also just speaks to how both sides of the ball helped each other throughout this 8-game win streak, not losing in 2 months, get back to the playoffs, where the Houston Texans will be for the third straight year. What a miracle season. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all in one remote friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposit saves you hours every week. So all my small business owners out there, Gusto is where you need to turn your head towards. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time for my small business owners out there that need to write this down, gusto.com/lockedonnfl. It's been an incredible year for the Houston Texans. It's been remarkable covering them this year. And if I can speak to you guys, I'm going to speak to my everydayers like I speak to them. I'm going to keep it real. There have been people out there, and I will keep them nameless, but there have been people out there that, in so many words, have been waiting for the downfall of the Houston Texans that cover this team, that don't feel like DeMeco Ryans is the coach, that view other coaches around the league, maybe their favorite candidate at the time of when the hiring cycle was going around 3 years ago, that view that person as a better candidate. But yet, 3 years into this, 3 playoff appearances, 2 AFC South champions banners, 2 playoff wins, and people are still trying to find ways to get DeMeco Ryans out of here. And I just think that's funny. Some of those people may not see him around much anymore. However, DeMeco Ryans talked about the team earning it at the starting 0-3.
First to start, it's always, the light is shining bright on the Texans, but that light is really reflective of our guys' belief in the Lord and Savior, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Like that's what's driven our team, and I'm so proud of our guys and thankful to the Lord for allowing us to allow our lights to shine through him, and just all praise and honor goes to him. Just really proud of every person on this team and organization for putting us in a spot to go play in the playoffs. It's what you play for. It's what you work hard for throughout training camp, what you fight in the season for is for an opportunity, to be in the playoffs and go win it all. So we've earned that. It wasn't given to us. Our guys went out and earned it, and we're extremely proud of everybody for that.
Yeah. That's a man that has led a team through their own adversity to get back to a place where they can restart their journey, and get to the promised land. And Houston started the season 0-3. If they, end up being a wild card, they're going to have to go 3-0 to get to the Super Bowl. Right? This whole season can end up being extremely poetic for the Houston Texans, led by DeMeco Ryans, who I have a high amount of respect for and what he's been able to do. But the structure of this team to take what's in front of them and figure out how to win games has just been remarkable. Down 2 tackles, no problem. We'll figure it out. Blake Fisher, we've been getting you in all year, and you've shown us time. He ain't allowed a sack this year. Now, granted, he ain't been out there as a true tackle a lot, but when Blake Fisher has been out there, let's not forget how he performed against the Buffalo Bills. So, yeah, down 2 tackles, no problem. We'll slide our vet over, who's been phenomenal for us this year. And I think Titus Howard should have been a Pro Bowl candidate this year. Don't know where he's going to end up on the All-Pro rankings, but Titus Howard has been extremely good for Houston. And this is coming from a guy that in the beginning, due to Titus Howard being shuffled around, I didn't think he was worth the contract. Now moving forward, I think Houston's going to have to pay him a little bit more to keep him because of how he's moved around and he's been so good wherever position he's played at. Down 2 tackles. Okay, let's figure it out. Okay, I just talked about, hey, Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans going out there and find guys at D tackle to come play. Let's figure out different ways to get this thing together. Going up against a team that limits passing explosive plays. Okay, you know what? Let's use Nico Collins as a decoy to open up the game to get 240-plus yard touchdowns. And it was good to see Jaden Higgins get vertical opportunities and the rookies involved all together. This team is resilient. And because of the culture, this team has found ways to will themselves to victory. Of course, we want to see the offense continue to operate with efficiency and score points throughout the game, especially against some of these playoff teams. The pressure really impacted the offense, and I'll talk about that on tomorrow's show, but I don't feel like this was a show to nitpick. I don't feel like this was a show to be negative, simply because when you witness a team win 8 straight and do it the way they've done it, and understand how football works any given Sunday, it ain't been a given Sunday in 2 months. They ain't gave – no other team has gave Houston a Sunday in 2 months. But, you know, how often have this defense played with the confidence of being up 2 touchdowns? So it didn't look like a traditional complimentary game, but this was a 2025 complimentary game for Houston. Houston does their job. The offense does their job early in the game, and the defense finishes. It looks like Houston has their running back rotation figured out. Cannot emphasize enough the importance of Jahwar Jordan and what he's added to this room. I think on the year, only in 3 games, of course, he's averaging 5 yards a carry. And I think he may be the better pure runner of the duo of him and Marks. I just think Marks is so good on third down and what he provides in pass blocking and also out of the backfield, which they still haven't found a way to include him a lot more of that. He's your right now. He's just your every down back. He can do it all. Shout out to the running backs coach Danny Barrett, getting these rookies and late round picks ready to play in critical games this late in the year or when their number has been called. But just been a good year for the Houston Texans. It's been a fun ride. No matter what happens against the Jags in Colts game at the time of this recording, no matter what happens next week, the Texans are back in the playoffs. They could possibly play the Jags in the first round. They could possibly play the New England Patriots in the first round. They could possibly play the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round. But with how this team has been able to wield themselves to victory, and this is coming from a fan of another team in the AFC up east, it is not far-fetched to believe that if they play the Steelers, they won't make it hard on Aaron Rodgers to operate their pocket with how the edge players have been playing, but also Tommy T and Sheldon Rankins. God, boy, y'all been playing some good football in absence of Tim Settle and Mario Ellis. That's what makes it a little bit more remarkable, right? They're going to have issues with the receiving core. Who do you trust? Houston's DBs, Steelers wide receivers and their weapons. Right? So you look at that matchup, and obviously the Steelers defense play good football. Offensively, how can Houston combat that? We'll figure that out. Right? Against the Jags, tiebreaker. I think they match up so well. I think Houston and New England matches up well. I really do. This is me being honest. I think they match up well. So it's some great matchups for Houston potentially in their first round. But can you bet against Houston right now and D'Amico Ryans? I just had to learn my lesson. And I said it a month and a half ago. I'm not betting against D'Amico Ryans. I said at the beginning of December, I'm not betting against D'Amico Ryans. I bet against D'Amico Ryans on the crossover. And I regret it, but I'm glad that Houston won the game. Thank y'all for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Victory Monday, Victory December. Houston went out with a bang going into the new year, y'all. What you gonna do with it? Make sure y'all enjoy your holiday season this year. But make sure you follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Follow me on Instagram at SomeSportsGuy. Also, follow the Locked On Texan page on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Comment to the YouTube and Facebook as well. Until Texan fans around the city, around the nation around the world. Talk to me. What they going back to? The playoffs. This is the way you ball. I'm out.